Hello everyone, this is your fellow classmate, Lindsay Barbieri. I'm a graduate student in Rubenstein and I'm going to present on monitoring agricultural emissions. I'm currently in California for a conference, so apologies for not presenting in person. Atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations are increasing. We can measure this in a variety of ways, and I chose to plot atmospheric data from the NOAA Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii. I then added projected CO2 data from the 4 IPCC models, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Notice that these 4 representative carbon pathways predict a wide range in potential CO2 concentrations by the year 2100. This ultimate CO2 concentration level will really depend on our ability to mitigate or reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and agriculture plays a significant role here. This is because agriculture both emits large amounts of greenhouse gases and also has the potential to mitigate emissions based on land management. These mitigation strategies, however, depend on emissions monitoring. And these data are often lacking as greenhouse gas monitoring is both expensive and time-consuming. I based this project around exploring the potential for linking remote sensing techniques on high-resolution drone imagery to field-based monitoring in order to help scale up the accuracy and range of agricultural emissions monitoring. To do so, I worked with data from 3 different studies, all monitoring the same 2 hay fields at Shelburne Farms. One field was managed conventionally, and the other was managed with a best management practice approach of field aeration after manure spreading. It's key to note that this best management is in relation to water quality and nutrient runoff from these fields, which is the focus of the Edge of Field monitoring study and these stations, which were run by Stone Environmental. These edge-of-field stations also log air temperature and precipitation data every 15 minutes, and those 2 were the only data sets I had access to for this project from Stone Environmental. The second study from UVM monitored soil gas fluxes, soil temperature, and soil moisture from 4 static chambers in each field. Data were collected approximately once a week from June through October and required a rather confusing amount of cleaning and processing, as these data were handled by many lab and field participants, and lab data protocol is relatively lacking, which is something I hope to address in the coming weeks. I did spend a lot of time exploring the correlations and relationships between all of these on-field variables before the exciting addition of the 3rd data source, which is imagery from an unmanned aerial system, or drone. This drone was flown twice over both fields. The main derived data products that I used were DSM and NDVI for topographic and vegetation analysis. The 2 major takeaways are, first, this study shows that Field 2, represented in blue, may be the environmentally best managed field in regards to water quality, but is likely emitting more greenhouse gases, as shown by these linear regressions of CO2 measurements from both fields. This may even be exacerbated by on-field events such as manure spreading. Though the statistical power in this study is very low considering the lack of repetition, this potential result is in keeping with other similar studies, and most importantly highlights the major point that agricultural landscapes are complex and environmental trade-offs likely exist. The best management strategies that mitigate the negative effect of one thing may increase the negative effects of others. So to make the best decisions, we need more cost-effective and efficient ways to gather emissions data at landscape and regional scales, which leads to high-resolution drone imagery. These 2 images were taken 1 week apart, during which manure was spread on the field. The 4 red boxes are 10-meter squares around each of our static chambers. A vegetation index, or measurement of density and greenness of vegetation, was applied to each pixel within these squares and then compared from one time point to the next. This index may be used to help determine greenhouse gas emissions remotely, as vegetation density may affect emission rates for a variety of reasons. To determine if using NDVI values would even capture the field differences between these 2 time steps, the vegetation index values were plotted for each square. Green for pre-manure and red for post-manure. And then a 2-sample KS test was applied to determine that, in fact, these NDVI values were very likely different between the 2 time steps. This leads to exciting next steps to determine how exactly emissions may be linked to these spectral data in order to expand our understanding of emissions across landscapes.